Hi everyone, I wanted to talk a little bit about demotivation, laziness, procrastination, and how that can factor into the recovery journey, how that can become a very difficult hurdle to overcome. That was essentially me for many, many years, feeling completely energyless and frustrated and having like this lethargic, laid back lifestyle that obviously didn't do me any favors, and overcoming that felt like dismantling an entire mountain. So, I want to take a look at a little bit of some of those aspects before I go on. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment, please. Let us know what you think about our content. So with demotivation, it's very easy position to be in the sense that you can easily just take a step back from your life, right? You don't have to exert yourself. You don't have to take up any responsibilities. You put in minimal effort on a daily basis, and it's very easy to get addicted to that kind of lifestyle because there are no difficulties, there are no challenges that you are facing or trying to overcome. So, and you don't feel like you have to wake up and have like a goal or some kind of agenda to do that with, even though logically you want to work towards something, but then you decide like, who wants to do that? I mean, it feels like too much, and I don't even know where to start, so might as well not do it. That's the kind of like mindset that you go with. Again, I was there myself. And for me, if I give you my personal example, I think I for some reason I had really embodied this notion that I'm okay with a moderate, mediocre life. I really had kind of embodied that. I thought I'm a very chill guy. I'm not I don't want big things in life. There's no fuss about anything, and I'm okay with settling for the bare minimum. I really embodied that mindset, right? And I'm not saying that everyone has to be very high achieving and very driven, but like when you do that out of wanting convenience and comfort and just like a, an easy lifestyle, then it really doesn't do you any favors, because on the inside you're also feeling really frustrated. You're also feeling very um, like you don't have any achievements, like you don't have any drive or passion or push in your life, and there are things that you want to do, but as soon as you even start to think about them, there's like a break. There's this like resistance and inertia that comes up in you. And so that kind of like chill and introverted kind of thing is also that's a compulsive thing. With OCD sufferers, like most of the time that's a very compulsive thing, because it's coming from a place of avoiding triggers, avoiding feeling bad, avoiding that sensation of exhaustion, tiredness, or overwhelmingness. Fear of burnout is a very common one as a result of this as well. And then there are a list of tasks and to do things or goals in life that you're essentially just procrastinating on. You become very lazy and lethargic, and everything requires this like massive amount of pushing yourself to be able to do it. Even something as small as, I don't know, grabbing a snack from the kitchen can sometimes be like, oh, okay, fine, I'll get it. Yeah, in a minute, in a minute, in a minute. And then essentially hours go by, and that little task that you have been thinking about is just there in your head. It's not done then. And it can feel like an immense burden that is constantly just building up as well, right? So, um, with that, like with procrastination, what happens is then you're also trying to wait for the perfect moment to do things, because you're afraid of making a mistake, you're afraid of failing, and you're afraid of, like I said previously, feeling tired. For some reason, we think that we need a certain level of mental preparation. We need to be prepared enough and mentally ready to tackle a task. Sometimes even going out with friends for me was like, oh, I need mental preparation. Like I would be sitting at home, I would get a message from my friends, hey, let's hang out, let's go out. And I would be free. I wouldn't have anything going on in my life, but I would say no just because I would feel like this is too sudden and I'm not mentally prepared enough to be in a public setting where there's going to be a lot of noise, perhaps. There's going to be a lot of people, a lot of movement, and I'm just not ready for that. And I would just say no, right? And that kind of trying to have mental preparedness before anything in life, again, also becomes very compulsive, right? And so this when we adopt this kind of personality and then make it our personality, we also, because we start behaving this way across like a few years, it does become a part of your personality, and then you start thinking, this is just who I am. That's just how you see yourself. You no longer see yourself as an outgoing, a little extroverted, a little social kind of person. You view yourself as someone who just wants to be like in the shadows, kind of, right? Because being a little on the forefront comes with discomfort. It comes with people looking at you. It comes with the risk of people watching you make mistakes, the risk of people watching you failing, right? Because then you're not in this like hideaway kind of position. Now, all of this also, the other thing that's happening over here is that all of this is coming from a place of basing all your decisions in how you feel. So I'm not feeling energetic, so I don't want to do anything. I'm not feeling motivated, so I'm not going to do anything. I'm not feeling happy, so I don't want to go out. I'm feeling anxious, so I don't want to be with my friends, I want to be by myself. All your decisions are based off of how you feel. And basing 100% of your decisions, or like largely basing things off of your how you feel, becomes the problem over here. Because if I put it like very in a very direct way, if I kept listening to how I felt, if I kept listening to how my what my gut was saying or what my brain was saying I should do, I wouldn't have recovered. Because, for instance, exposures. When you're doing exposures, it feels like you are doing like the most inherently wrong thing to yourself. You're doing the thing that is to be avoided at all costs, right? And if I hadn't gone against the grain on that front, I wouldn't have faced any fears, and I would have still been stuck essentially, right? Um, so a lot of it requires, like, when you're starting to work on demotivation, when you're starting to work on lack of confidence or lack of energy in life, you have to do things that feel like they're incorrect or wrong, or they don't feel quite okay, right? And some things I really want to also kind of like uh, bust the myths on that front as well, where as far as motivation goes, motivation is not something that you wake up and it's just there. It's something that you have to create for yourself through habit formation as well. Um, so even if you take an example like the gym, very common example, people have a lot of like false starts with the gym as well. They go for months, then they become lazy, then they like put it off for a while, then they go like again, then like it's very patchy. But then when you start being a little more consistent and start forcing yourself to go to the gym even on days when you don't feel like it, is when you start to really build like more muscle memory kind of on that front, and it starts to feel like more of a regular thing rather than this big massive effort that feels like a mountain, right? It doesn't feel like that anymore once you get in the routine of things. It's the same with something like energy. Now, energy is also not something that the clouds part and it falls in your lap. Energy is also created, and I know that sounds also just strange. It's like if I'm feeling perpetually exhausted and tired from anxiety running through my body, how can I create energy because I have zero energy in me? But I thought that as well, of course, because I kept waiting for moments of feeling energy to be able to do things. But energy is also something that you can create for yourself. If you ask me right now if I want to go on like a 2 or 4 kilometer run or something, I don't feel like doing it. I don't feel like I have the energy. I also haven't like had lunch yet, so I still have to have that. But um, I also know that if I put on my running shoes and if I take that first like step and I start running, automatically I'll have that momentum in my body that's going to take me each and every step along the way for me to be, even if I don't do like 2 kilometers, even if I do like one and a half, it's still something that I have created for myself. Maybe I might fall a little short of my supposed goal. That's fine. I don't need to achieve that goal. Even if I make it like a little more than halfway, it's something that I did for myself, and I can build forward from there, right? I can take a little snack break and then do the rest of the goal that is left. I can do that after that, something like that, right? But I have to put my body in that position where I create that momentum for myself, where I create that energy for myself. Even from like a scientific perspective, I've studied science up till like A levels and O levels, I think, and I know as much that as far as kinetic energy goes, right? The more you are the more movement there is, the more heat is produced, and the more like it produces that energy in the body, or even in like objects as well. It creates that momentum where then there's way more energy, right? If I don't know, if there's like this thing, these Nutella biscuits, right? If the object is like this, then it's just like this. But when I start moving it, when I start spinning it, is when it creates the momentum in the particles, and it starts to spin even more. I know, I'm just trying to get the point across in the best way possible that I can. But like, so you have to create that energy for yourself, and because what we're waiting for is motivation, bravery, confidence, um, energy to kind of like fall in our lap by default one day when we wake up, for it to be bestowed upon us from like the sky and the heavens. It doesn't happen that way. You have to be the one to create that for yourself. Same with confidence, right? Confidence doesn't come from just thinking about it, right? Confidence comes from actually doing things. Confidence comes from trial and error. And until and unless you don't give yourself that shot at making mistakes of that trial and error period, you're not going to be able to create that confidence for yourself, right? If I just stayed in bed as I did when I was suffering, because I would essentially just spend my entire day in bed. I use my phone in my bed. I use my laptop in my bed. I ate in my bed. I socialized as well. Like if I had people over, I would be the one sitting in my bed, and other people would be sitting on like, a couch or a chair or something like that. I would just be in bed because that was my default position, right? So if I just did that and I didn't if I didn't make any physical behavioral changes in my life, um, I, I wouldn't be over here. I would still be pretty much in the depths and throes of suffering with things. But aside from taking that action, the belief side of things is also really important, because I was viewing, for example, tiredness inherently as a bad thing. I was viewing exhaustion inherently as a bad thing, because I was immediately linking it to burnout, overwhelmingness, and just then completely my nerves being saturated and just like completely done, right? And I thought it would be an overload on my brain, and my brain cannot handle it. That kind of like self belief about my brain is weak and my brain cannot handle pressure or like too much on its plate. It becomes a self fulfilling prophecy, because you're literally then installing an Achilles heel in yourself. You're installing a weak spot in yourself, and automatically that's going to be hit, right? When you do try to take a step forward in life, it's automatically going to be there. So the brain is not something which is like this, like I don't know, flaccid little thing that cannot be strengthened, right? It's something that through exercises, not just physical exercise, but like also through like things like taking on more responsibility, putting things in action, reflecting on things, really doing mental like exercises on just trying to practice gratitude and things like that. That's where our brain is over time strengthened and our thinking is polished way more. That's how like you become a little more rational. That's how you change your opinions about things. That's how like your life perspectives in general, OCD or not, are built through through like working on how you think about things as well, right? So when we're looking at beliefs around demotivation, first of all, it's the myths of like, oh, motivation is something that's automatically there. Confidence and energy is something that's automatically there. No, it's something that you also have to create for yourself. There's that. But then the other thing is viewing tiredness, exhaustion, overwhelmingness as this threat to your absolute peace of mind and happiness, right? Um, Tiredness and exhaustion can actually be a good thing because it signals to your body that you've actually put in some work. You have exerted yourself in the day, and there's a sense of achievement in that. The same as, again, if we take the example of the gym, right? When you come back from the gym, obviously you're feeling tired, your muscles are sore. The next day, it's difficult to move because there are cramps and whatnot. But with that kind of pain, there's also a sense of, there's a thrill as well, because the pain is like, oh, I actually exerted myself, I actually did move my body in a certain way where it was pushed to feel a certain way, right? So tiredness is something that, or like exhaustion is something that is, it helps provide you with a contrast to rest as well, right? Because until, if you're constantly just putting yourself in a position of rest, then you don't even know what tiredness is, and then you also don't value rest either. Then you also start seeing rest as this constant monotonous state. Same as if you are like a workaholic and you're constantly working, then you don't learn to value resting as much, because then you start to see resting as something that there's something wrong, I have to do something, I can't be resting and sitting back, right? So then those are two different extremes. So there has to be a balance of both those things in your life. And so it's the perspective around what you view tiredness as is what's causing the anxiety as well. Because people who had similar fears to me, for example, they start to see it as something that's going to have long lasting effects. Tiredness is something that's going to break my brain at some point. Tiredness is something that's going to overrun my nerves, and it's just going to start destroying my life, right? That even in my moment of sitting back on the couch or sitting back in my bed is also going to feel so extremely uh, unhappy because of that, right? So it's, and plus, on top of that, with, for example, procrastinating as well, there's that absolute fear of, because it was for me, it was a fear of doing things imperfectly, it was a fear of making mistakes, it was a fear of failing, essentially, that I was trying to avoid with that. I didn't want to do a task that I knew I would make mistakes at, which is silly because I can only make mistakes and then proceed forward. I can't just, in the first go, I can't do, like, I can't sit in a car and be like, I'm going to drive it for the first time perfectly. That doesn't happen. It's the same with like literally anything in life, right? I can't do things perfectly the same in the first go. But I was afraid of making a mistake. I was afraid of embarrassing myself in front of other people, but also to myself as well. I didn't want to embarrass myself in front of me, right? So in my eyes, I want to be this, oh, someone who does things really well, and someone who's really skilled and doesn't make a mistake, understands things in the first go, doesn't have to put in too much effort to do anything. So there's a lot of self-rating going on here as well when it comes to completing tasks or productivity, or how you view yourself as someone who is skilled or unskilled or talented or untalented with that, right? So maybe it might take you a little longer than the next person to complete a task. Why does that have to be a reason for you to not pursue that task or not do it, and beat yourself up for it then? So those are some of the things that we really have to look at, because demotivation, lack of confidence, lack of energy is not just this physical thing that's happening to us. It's very much compounded and intensified by the beliefs and perspectives we're holding around it. And like I said, we install that weakness in us through those perspectives and as well, and we see it playing out in front of us then as well. So the Myth of Self-Esteem is a great book for this. But also At Last a Life by Paul David is also a great book for dealing with like the physical side of things in terms of tiredness and anxiety and feeling completely burnt out or saturated with it. But yeah, I just thought I would go into that a little bit because demotivation was a big thing for me. And I hope this helps you. All right, bye.